Alright, this homework is just one more review before the quiz that's coming up tomorrow. A review of all the different kinds of factoring and the different methods of solving quadratic equations. Okay? So, let's get started. Actually, I guess this is all about... Alright, we're doing the solving first and then the factorings at the end. Alright, I got it. Alright, now in terms of which method we're going to use, factoring is the fastest when something is factorable. But what if it's not factorable? If something can't be factored, that's why we need completing the square or the quadratic formula. Now, completing the square is pretty good when the middle term is even, like 2, 4, 6, 8, and when the leading coefficient is 1. You know, meaning like when there's no visible number in front. So like number 3, you can see this would be a good one for completing the square because there's no visible number here, meaning it's a 1, and this is divisible by 2. Alright, but if this is odd or if there's a number here, completing the square is awkward. Quadratic formula is the one to use if you have something that's not factorable and the middle term is not even, or if there's a number in front. Alright, you can always use the quadratic formula. That works for everything. So the quadratic formula is pretty great. So, solve by factoring. Let's practice. To solve by factoring, we're going to need to subtract 2 from both sides. So that's going to give us 6x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. Now we can go on and factor this because we're supposed to solve by factoring. So look to see if there's a GCF. There's not one. So I can go ahead and start to factor this now. Now looking at the 6, there are two possibilities. It's either going to be 2 times 3 or 1 times 6. Alright, I'm going to start with 2 times 3. So, okay, so it might be 2x and 3x to make 6x squared. Then I jump over and look at the negative 2. Well, there's only one possibility there. It's got to be 1 times 2. And I am going to go ahead and put the 1 here and the 2 here. Now, remember that I know not to even try putting the 2 here and the 1 here, because that would make a common factor here, and if there's no common factor in the original equation, there should not be a common factor inside the parentheses either. So don't waste your time. Now we have to check the whole inner plus outer equals middle situation. So inner, I'm multiplying, that I have 3x inner. Outer, I have 4x. Now that's supposed to equal the middle. Now the middle here is positive 1x. I'll go ahead and show the 1 just to emphasize what we're doing. The only thing I can control right now are the signs. If I pick the signs right, can I get a positive 1 out of this? Sure, if this were a negative 3 and a positive 4, that would make 1. Okay, let's see. So negative 3 you say. So if this were negative, inner would be negative 3. If this 2 were positive, that would make the positive 4 outer. Now, one last thing. Will I get negative 2? Does negative 1 times positive 2 equal negative 2? Yes, it does. So that means we have factored it correctly. So I'm going to save this, just put a little box around it. So now, we're solving though, so we're not going to stop. You see the equal sign. We're going to keep going until we find what x equals. And this is called the zero product property, what we're going to do now. Because we're going to take each of these and set them equal to 0. So we're going to do 2x minus 1 equals 0. And we're going to do 3x plus 2 equals 0. Adding 1 to both sides gives me 2x equals 1. Alright. Dividing by 2 gives me x equals 1/2. So that is one solution. Meanwhile, over here I will subtract 2. So I have 3x equals -2. Then I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. So I'm going to get x equals -2/3. So these are the two solutions for problem number 1. Alright, problem number 2. Well, okay, technically this is still problem number 1, but second half of problem number 1. We're supposed to solve using the quadratic formula. Alright, that's why it's the same problem again, because we're doing a different method. So, remember what the quadratic formula is. Opposite of b, plus or minus square root, plus or minus square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a, all over 2a. That's the quadratic formula. Now, this part underneath the radical is called the discriminant. Alright, this is the discriminant. And we're always going to find this part first, and then we do the rest of it. So remember, b squared minus 4ac, that's the discriminant. So we will always find the discriminant first. Well, it needs to be in standard form. So we saw that if we subtract 2 from both sides, this becomes 6x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. Okay? Notice that means that a is 6 and b is 1 and c is -2. Okay? So when I do the discriminant, I think I'll do it in red. Alright, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So that's 1 squared minus 4 times 6 times -2. Alright, let's see what that is. Yeah. When I put stuff like this in my calculator, I like to do this part in my head. 1 squared is just 1. So it's going to be 1 minus 4 times 6 times -2. Alright, there's your b squared minus 4ac. So that is 49. Check it out. 49. So now let's do the rest of it. Okay, so the solution. Keeping in mind the quadratic formula, the solution is opposite of b plus or minus square root. Okay, so opposite of b, so b is -1, so I'm sorry, b is +1. So the opposite of b is -1 plus or minus square root. Now under the square root goes the discriminant that we just found. So I'm going to put that 49 under there. All over 2a. So a is 6, so 2a is 12. Alright, so we just basically have to simplify this down. So this is going to give me -1 plus or minus 7, because square root of 49 is 7. Alright, over 12. Okay? Now, look at this. Let's see, let me split this up. This plus or minus business, this means -1 plus 7 over 12 and -1 minus 7 over 12. Okay? Now, if you're good at adding and subtracting, you will do this in your head. Alright? -1 plus 7 is 6. So that's 6 over 12, which is 1/2. Okay? -1 minus 7 is -8. -8 over 12. Alright? I'm going to have to divide both of these by 4, but I'm going to get -2/3. Alright, if you're bad at adding, you might have to put some of these in a calculator, unfortunately. Alright, I mean, you have big problems. If you do not know that -1 plus 7 is 6, but unfortunately some of you are in that position. So I could have done -1 plus 7 over 12. and I could have gotten, I could have done -1 minus 7 over 12. Okay, if you have to. Always try to do it in your head first, but if you know you're weak at it, check your answers on the calculator. Notice I get the same answer whichever method I use. That should always be the case. Alright, let's keep going. Looking at number 2. Now remember, this is the factoring side, so let's go with that. This is the difference of two squares. The difference of two perfect squares. So this is just going to factor as 5x plus 4, 5x minus 4. Alright? 5 times 5 is 25, 4 times 4 is 16. This pattern will always be 1 plus and 1 minus. And so I can go straight to my zero product property. So I will go 5x plus 4 equals 0, and 5x minus 4 equals 0. Alright, we're solving, we're not just factoring. So subtracting 4 from both sides, I'll have 5x equals -4. And then if I divide by 5 on both sides, I'll have x equals -4/5. Meanwhile, over here, I will add 4 to both sides. So that'll give me 5x equals 4. And then I will divide by 5 on both sides. So that will give me x is equal to +4/5. Okay, that's the answer to number 2, by factoring. Now, we're supposed to do that same problem using the quadratic formula. And look, this is already in standard form. Just recognize that the middle term is missing. Okay, there's no x term. So this is like having 25x squared plus 0x minus 16 equals 0. The point is, when we talk about a, b, and c, a is 25, but b is 0. That's the key. b is 0 because there's a missing middle. And this -16 is c. Alright, a lot of kids think this will be b because they just go, okay, a, b. But this has no x on it. That's how you know it's the number that goes at the end, the c value. So next we always do the discriminant, which I feel like doing in green this time. Alright, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, like that. So that's going to be 0 squared, okay, minus 4 times 25 times -16. That's how we will calculate the discriminant. Alright, so let's see what that is. Now, if we type this in, we don't really need to put in the 0 squared. Okay, 0 squared is 0. And you could have just left it off completely. Alright, I'm just doing it to make sure I don't lose anybody. So b squared minus 4ac. So that is positive 1,600. That's the discriminant. So when I go to solve the problem, my solutions are going to be, alright, I have to do opposite of b plus or minus square root. Okay, so opposite of b, well, b is 0, so opposite of b is still 0. So 0 plus or minus square root, and then here goes the discriminant, which is 1,600, all over 2a. So remember the formula, okay, 2a, 2 times a. So that's 2 times 25, which is 50. Okay, so we just have to simplify this. Let's see what the square root of 1,600 is. It's 40. Alright, probably could have guessed that. So that's going to give me x equals plus or minus 40 over 50. Alright, obviously I just erased the 0 because 0 plus anything is itself. So just erase that 0 and you're left with plus or minus 40 over 50. If I divide these both by 10, this is x equals plus or minus 4/5. Okay, which obviously you really could leave it like this, but that means positive 4/5 or negative 4/5. That's what plus or minus means. And that's what we got. So same thing. All right, let's move on to number 3. All right, now with number 3, we're supposed to do this one by completing the square. So let's see if you guys can remember how we do that. First of all, this number needs to be special. So we will subtract that from both sides. So then I'm going to have x squared minus 10x, leave a space, equals -2. Okay, what is the magic number that completes the square? It'll be 25, because it's going to be half of the middle squared. So half of 10 is 5, 5 squared is 25. And if we add it to the left, we have to add it to the right. Now the point of completing the square is that it should factor down as the same thing twice. So this is going to give us x minus from that, x minus 5 2 times. Add these up, okay, that's 23. Now the point of having this is I can write it as x minus 5 squared, because they're the same. Now the benefit of this is that now I can take the square root of both sides. Don't forget that it's plus or minus. Alright, when I take the square root, it makes this exponent go away. So that gives me x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus radical 23. Do I have any more space? Oh look, lots of space. So now I would add 5 to both sides, but I put it in the front. So that's going to give me x equals 5 plus or minus radical 23. And you can leave your answer like that, but understand that this really means 5 plus radical 23 or 5 minus radical 23. So we solved by completing the square. Now, if we solve using the quadratic formula, we should get the same answer. So this is already in standard form. A is 1, B is -10, and C is 2. So the discriminant. Alright, the discriminant, as you recall, is b squared minus 4ac. We always calculate that first. So b squared, so that's -10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2. Alright, that's 100. Alright, -10 squared, this is always going to be a positive number. And I like to do that part in my head. So that's 100, okay? B squared is 100. Minus 4 and AC. Okay, you did not need to put the 1. So we get 92. Alright, I'm sure you could have done that in your head. So the discriminant is 92. Now we can go ahead and find the solutions. Alright, according to the quadratic formula, we can get the solutions by doing opposite of b plus or minus square root. Okay, so opposite of b. B is -10, so the opposite of b is +10. Plus or minus square root. 92 is our b squared minus 4ac. Alright, all over 2a. 2 times a. Well, 2 times 1 is just 2. Alright, let's see if the square root of 92 reduces. Do not put this entire thing into your calculator. Don't try. Just do the square root of 92 on its own. Alright, square root of 92. Whoops, I missed. Square root of 92 is 2 radical 23. So this is going to give us x is equal to 10 plus or minus 2 radical 23 over 2. Alright, if there is a common factor between these three numbers, we need to go ahead and divide to reduce. So all of these are divisible by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. This is not optional. So this is going to give us x equals, alright, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 5 plus or minus. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and we don't put the 1. And 2 divided by 2 is 1, and we don't put that either. So this is what we have. This is the answer. Notice that's the same thing we got by completing the square. Okay, good times. What else do we have here? Solve by factoring or completing the square. I'm gonna factor for sure. Let's see, I see the number in front. You know, it's all about factoring. So, oh, unless it's unfactorable. But let's see. As I try to factor it, I'm going to pull this 3 out. I see a common factor. So if I pull out that GCF, that's going to leave x squared plus 8x plus 12. Alright, I divided everything by 3. Now I will attempt to factor this further, alright, as a binomial times a binomial. X squared can only be x times x. 12 has some possibilities. Alright, 12 is either going to be 3 times 4, or 2 times 6, or 1 times 12. Alright, now when the leading coefficient is 1, I can start looking for the 8 right now. And I'm seeing the 2 and the 6 could make 8 if I added. So the 2 and the 8, the 2 and the 6 are looking good to me. Alright, this little shortcut only works when the leading coefficient is 1, when there's no number right here in the front. So let's go with that. Now remember, inner plus outer equals middle. So the inner is 2x. Outer is 6x. The middle is positive 8x. That's what I need to get. I could get that if the signs were both positive. Positive 2 and positive 6 would make positive 8. But that would mean both of these would be positive. Would that give me a positive 12? Yes, positive 2 times positive 6 is 12. So that means it is factored correctly. I'm going to save this. And now it's time to do our zero product property. Normally I would set everything equal to 0. But 3 can't equal 0, so I'm going to ignore that. But x, oh, I'm sorry, man, I messed that up. X plus 2, that might equal 0. That'll give me a solution. And x plus 6, that could equal 0. What about the 3? What happens to the 3? Ignore it. 3 cannot equal 0, so that means these two have to. If I subtract 2 from both sides, that gives me x equals negative 2. Alright, if I subtract 6 from both sides, that gives me x equals negative 6. So these are the two solutions for number 4. We did that by factoring. Alright, once again the same problem, and we're supposed to solve it using the quadratic formula. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. A is 3. B is 24. C is 36. So when I do the discriminant, which I always do first, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So I'm going to do 24 squared minus 4 times 3 times 36. That's b squared minus 4ac. Alright, you know what? Off the top of my head, I don't remember what 24 squared is. So I'm actually going to type this in. Alright, I always put my b in parentheses. So b squared minus 4 ac. Alright, that is 144. So my discriminant is 144. Alright, that's great. Now I can go ahead and solve it. The solution should be opposite of b plus or minus square root. Alright, so there's b. So opposite of b would be negative 24 plus or minus square root. And then under here is the discriminant. So that's 144. All over 2a. Right? 2a, 2 times a. So that's 2 times 3. So that should be 6. Now we just have to simplify this. So this would be x equals negative 24 plus or minus 12. Alright? Square root of 144 is 12. Alright? You should know that by heart. But if you didn't, there you go. Alright? All over 6. But we have to simplify this further. So please understand that it's time to split up the plus or minus. Alright? This means negative 24 plus 12 over 6 and negative 24 minus 12 over 6. That's what plus or minus means. Plus or minus. Alright? Now negative 24 plus 12, that's negative 12 over 6, which is negative 2. Okay? And this is going to be negative 36 over 6, which is negative 6. So these are the two solutions, which is the same thing we got before. Alright, remember, if you're bad at adding and subtracting, you may in fact need a calculator at some point. So for example, when I did negative 24 minus 12, some of you guys don't know what that is. Alright, and I don't want you to get the wrong answer just because you don't remember how to subtract. Okay, so please, if you know you're weak at the adding and subtracting, check your answers using the calculator. Alright, so that's how we do that one. Alright, what's next? Alright, number 5. Please tell me this is the second page. Okay. Alright, so number 5. So now we're just factoring. So we're not solving anymore. So we're not going all the way down to x equals anything. Alright, when you factor, you just do the parentheses and stop. But always look for a common factor. Is there a common factor here? No, sir. First you look at the 2x squared. That could only be 2x times x. But then we look at the 12. 12 could be either 3 times 4, or it could be 2 times 6, or it could be 1 times 12. It could be any of those three things. So I say we start with the 3 times 4. Notice I'm going to definitely do 3 here and 4 here. I would not waste my time on 4 and 3 because this would cause a GCF with the 2. There would be a common factor, and there should not be a common factor in the parentheses if there was not one in the original problem. So we will only try this way. Next, we check. The inner plus the outer have to equal the middle. Inner, I have 3x. Outer, I have 8. I'm multiplying. So outer, I have 8x. I'm trying to get a middle of negative 11x. I can control the signs. If I choose the signs right, can I get a negative 11 out of this? Yeah, if I did negative 3 and negative 8, that would make negative 11. So that would make this negative and that negative. I have to check one more thing. Does it make positive 12? Negative times a negative is a positive, so yeah. And so in this, for a factoring problem, I'm done. I factored it correctly. That's the answer right there. All right, and I will not keep going. Now look at this. The first step of factoring is look for a common factor. Is there a common factor on this problem? There sure is. Both of these are divisible by 3. So I'll bring out the 3 outside of parentheses. Now, whenever I bring out a common factor, what I really am doing is I divide by that common factor. So that's going to leave me with 8x to the third power plus y to the third power. Am I done? Is there anything else I can do with this? Yes. Well, I mean, I'm not done. There's more I can do. I'm hoping that you recognize that this is a sum of 2 cubes. Right? 8 is a perfect cube. In fact, at the beginning of your quiz, I recommend that you do this. I recommend that you make a list of the first 10 perfect cubes down the side of your paper using your calculator to generate all these. Now notice that 8 is on the list as one of my perfect cubes. It comes from 2 to the third power. So I'm going to need that in a second. So this is how you factor the sum or difference of 2 cubes. First of all, this 3 is not going anywhere, so just bring that down. Okay, so here's what you do. Focusing on this, the sum or difference of 2 cubes will always factor as a binomial times a trinomial. Alright, that's a 2-piece and a 3-piece. The binomial is simple. The binomial is just going to be the root of each one of these things. Alright, the root of 8, like I just showed you, 8 comes from 2 to the third power. So from the 8, I put a 2. Alright, the root of x to the third power is x. I bring down the plus sign as well. Okay, the root of the y to the third power is just y. Alright, so the binomial just is the root of these things. So 2x plus y. Now, the trinomial, alright, this is a 3-piece. So it's going to have a beginning and an end and then a middle. Alright, I colored the beginning and the end the same color because we're going to do those at the same time right now. Alright, the beginning and the end come from squaring the terms of the binomial. If I take the 2x and I square it, 2x times 2x, that's 4x squared. Now, skip to the end. If I square this term, I'm going to get the end. So if I take that and I square it, that's just going to be y squared. And when you square something, both of these will always be positive. Alright, even a negative times a negative would be a positive. So that just leaves the middle. The middle, alright, so I squared these. Alright, for the middle, you multiply. Okay, I'm going to take these two and I multiply. I'm multiplying 2x and y. Alright, I'm multiplying these two together. If I do that, well, that's just 2xy this time. Sometimes it's a little more interesting than that. But we always use the opposite sign. Okay, so I'm going to use the 2xy, but it's positive, so I'm going to put negative. If this were negative, I would put positive. Okay, so multiply, do the opposite sign. That's how you find the middle term. Okay? If that was confusing, rewind and watch that again. I guarantee once you do it a few times, it is very simple. And that's it. That's done. All right? This can never factor further. So put a box around it. You're done. All right. That's my signal to go to lunch. But I really want to finish this. Let me see if I can finish this and still have time to eat. Okay, do not watch this with a pencil in your hand. If you have a pencil in your hand, shame on you. You know better. Put the pencil down. Watch the video if you have to. But then go back and do the problem yourself. If you have a pencil in your hand while you're watching the video and you're just copying this down, you're not learning anything, and it's going to show up when you get this problem wrong on the quiz. Okay, this is just like the last problem. So like I told you, now look at the 216 and the 125. No, that's not what I wanted. 216 and 125. All right, notice that they are perfect cubes. They're on the list. All right, that you're going to make and put in the margin of your paper. Notice that 125 comes from 5 and 216 comes from 6. So this is the difference of two cubes. I told you that it will always be a binomial times a trinomial, a 2-piece times a 3-piece. The binomial is just going to be the root of all these things. Okay, 216, I said it came from 6. A to the third power comes from A. Bring down the minus sign. 125 came from 5. And B to the third power comes from B. So the binomial is the root, the cube root of all of these. Now, remember, to find the trinomial, first you do the beginning and the end. And you can get the beginning and the end by squaring these. If I take 6a and I square it, I'm going to get 36a squared. If I take negative 5b and I square it, I'm going to get a positive 25b squared. When you square something, it's always positive. And the middle, where did I say we get the middle from? Okay, the middle comes from multiplying these two terms together and doing the opposite sign. So if I multiply these two together, I would get, maybe I'll do a different color. Oh, and I want to highlight. Okay, so now we're doing the middle. We do the middle last. So I'm multiplying. I'm doing 6a times negative 5b. If I multiply those together, I get negative 30a. So guess what I'm going to put here? Positive 30. Did I say a? I meant ab. Okay, multiply them and do the opposite sign. Speaking of the signs, it helps some kids using this acronym. SOAP. I almost spelled soap wrong. SOAP helps you with the signs a little bit. This stands for same, opposite, always positive. Because this sign is always the same, and this one is opposite, and then this one is always positive. So SOAP. Same, opposite, always positive. If you need it, there you go. You're welcome. Don't say I never did anything for you. Alright, so yeah. That's your answer. Alright, let's factor this. GCF? No, 17 is a prime number. Alright, let's go, let's go. I gotta eat. Gotta eat, y'all. Tengo hambre. That means I'm hungry in Spanish. Alright, you know what? I gotta be careful. Because both of these have more than one way to do it. So slow down a little bit. This 12 is either gonna be 3 times 4, or it could be 2 times 6, or it could be 1 times 12. All right, this 6 could either be 2 times 3 or 1 times 6. So there's a lot of possibilities here. I'm going to start with, I always start with the pair that's closer together, and then I work my way up. 3 and 4 are close together. 2 and 3 are really close to each other. That bell, hear that bell? It's the sound of my stomach growling, you guys. Dedication right here. So let's try the 3 and 4. So that would be 3x and 4x. Okay? Alright, now I'm going to try the 2 and 3. Alright, and I would have to do the 2 here and the 3 here. One more time, I would not do 3 here and 2 here, because that would cause a common factor, and that should never happen. If the original problem does not have a common factor, there should be no common factors within the parentheses. So do not waste your time. So I go with the 2 and the 3. One more time, I check my inner plus outer has to equal the middle. Inner, I'm multiplying here, so that's 8x. 3 times 3, that's 9. I think I'm going to get lucky here. Alright? Now the middle, I'm shooting for a negative 17x. Is there any way I can get a negative 17 if I choose the signs right? Well, yeah, if they were both negative, that would do it. Okay, so that would make these both negative. Will that give me a positive 6? Yeah, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I got lucky, alright? It happened to be the first thing I tried. Alright, it helped that I knew not to do it the other way around. If these didn't work, I would have to keep trying other things until I found it. But I got lucky, so, and it's time for lunch anyway, so let me stop talking. So that is the answer for D. Okay, E. Is there a G? What? There's more down here? Oh, man. I don't know if I'm going to have time to finish this or not. Maybe if I really rush. Apologize for the speed. Alright, there is a common factor here, guys. They're all divisible by 2. So I will pull the 2 out front, meaning that I'm going to divide everything by 2, right? So that's going to leave me with x squared plus 15x minus 54. Alright, now I continue. X squared can only be x times x. Now 54. Now the first thing that pops into my mind when I see 54 is 6 times 9. Alright, it's one of our multiplication facts. So I'm hoping that's it. I mean, technically there are other possibilities, but let's go with 6 times 9 because that's the most common. But I don't think this is going to work out. I don't think this is going to work out because inner I have 6x, okay? Outer I have 9x. Okay, I'm trying to get positive 15x. Now I can get that if both of these are positive. That does make 15. So I was really happy at first, but that would make both of these positive, and you know, that wouldn't make negative 54. So that's no good. That's no good. So that means this did not work. So I have to try something else. Okay, you know what? I'm going to resort to, this is really slowing me down. I'm going to do like a factor tree thing to help me out. Okay, 6 times 9 is 54, right? So far so good. But these can factor further, all right? 6 is 2 times 3. Alright, that's as far as that'll go. And 9 is 3 times 3. This is what you call the prime factorization. 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. So everything I can make is going to be a combination of these. All right, so so far I tried 6 times 4. Okay, that was close, but that didn't work. So look, so I could do, let's see, looking at the 2 and then this combo right here. I could try 2 times 27. All right, but there's no way I'm going to get 15 out of 2 and 27. So mentally, I just tried that. So that didn't work. Okay, what else could I try? Alright, I can only see one other thing I could try. I could try doing these 3 and then this one. Alright, so let's see. So that's 9. You know, 3 times 3 is 9 times 2, so that's 18 and 3. That's the one I hadn't tried yet. 18 and 3. Aha! Okay. 18 minus 3 is 15. So this is going to work. This is definitely going to work. Alright, this was a tricky one, guys. I'm not going to lie. It took a little extra thought. Next level-ish. Okay, so I'm going with the 18 and the 3 option. If I have 18 inner and 3 outer, this will work if I have a positive 18 and a negative 3. So that would be positive 18 and negative 3. Now, a positive times a negative is a negative, so that works out. So this is the answer to E. That was a toughie. Alright, and man, I'm losing my lunchtime. Common factor of x. So I'm going to pull out that x. So that's going to leave me with 6x squared minus x minus 1. So then I factor further. Alright, this 6, it could either be 6 times 1 or it could be 2 times 3. Let's try 2 times 3. Now this 1 can only be 1 times 1. Inner, I've got 3x. Outer, I've got 2x. I'm trying to get negative 1x. I can get it if I have a negative 3 and a positive 2. This will make the negative 3 and this will make the positive 2. And a negative times a positive is a negative, so that is the answer right there. Alright, forgive the speed, pero tengo hambre. I'm very hungry. There's no common factor on this one, so I'm going to go for it, you know. I'm going to guess this could be 5 times 5 or it could be 25 times 1. I'm betting on 5x and 5x more common. 1 can only be 1 and 1. Now inner, I've got 5x. Outer, I've got 5x. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm trying to get negative 5x, so that is not working. I have a feeling this is prime. I have a feeling this one is prime, people, because this is not working, obviously, all right? But if I do it the other way, with 25 and x, okay, then inner, I've got 1x, and outer, I've got 25x. There's no way I'm going to get 5 out of that either. And that's it. Those are the only 2 possible ways to try. So guess what? Prime. Wait, Mr. Burton, will there be ones on the quiz that are prime? Maybe. But it's not very common. So if you're getting prime for like 3 different problems, you probably messed up a couple of them. Last one. Common factor, GCF. There, I see it. Let's do it. The 9 is common. Let's pull that out. See what happens. So that's going to leave x to the 3rd power plus 1. Guess what? This is the sum of 2 cubes. All right? It's like this stuff. No, not that. It's like this stuff. because 1 to the third power is 1. It's on the list. Okay, it's this. Okay, so we've done 2 of these problems already, so hopefully you're all about it. I told you that when you factor the sum or difference of 2 cubes, it will be a binomial times a trinomial, a 2-piece times a 3-piece. The binomial comes from the root of these 2 terms. So just x plus 1. That's the binomial. The trinomial, I always say, you know, it has 3 parts to it: a beginning, an end, and then the middle. Okay? Now I told you that to find the beginning and the end, the 2 yellow ones, you just square these. So x squared, well, I already said it, it's x squared. And if I take 1 and I square it, I just get a positive 1. The middle comes from multiplication. Alright? It comes from doing x times 1. Alright? X times 1 is just x. Okay, so I'm just going to have an x. But it will be the opposite sign. Alright? Same, opposite, always positive. SOAP. So that's it. That's all there is. This is the answer. Okay, let me catch the last like 5 minutes of my lunch period while I process this video. Alright, good luck on the quiz tomorrow, you guys. I hope you did not copy, because any problem that you just copied off of me, you're going to get wrong on the quiz tomorrow. Okay, and you know this, man.